Very, very fresh, crisp start to the day. It seems like we are going to have the most magnificent morning. There is not a cloud that is really in the sky, bar a few little wispy ones in the distance, and it looks like an epic sunrise is on its way. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I have got David once again, and hopefully we will have a good morning. Lots and lots of things happening last night by the sounds of things. Apparently there was a massive party that was had on Djuma, and all of you were invited, I believe, via the damn cam. So thank you for all of those that did let us know that there was all kinds of things happening on the damn cam, and lions and buffalo epic that played out. And all of you that did that, you did so using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and YouTube chat. So anybody else that would like to interact with us and let us know if they saw anything or if they want to ask any questions, you're more than welcome to do so on those platforms as well. Now, we've got a lonely wildebeest that is sitting on quarantine, and I think that wildebeest is very happy that buffalo were in town, because it meant it didn't have to dodge the hungry Nkuhumas pride all night and is still alive today. So I'm pretty sure that's a thankful wildebeest at this point. The buffalo themselves, though, seem to have got one over the lions. It sounds like they were chased off, and I believe the lion tracks are heading towards the Buffelshoek boundary already. We'll go and follow up and just try and double check and see if that is the case, that they did cross out. I'm pretty sure, though, if they were on Gari Cutline going north, that is in all likelihood that they have crossed over to Buffelshoek. But we'll see. So that's the plan for the morning, is we're going to go try and see where they went. From there, I'm going to head into the eastern side and see maybe if there's any sign for Thandi and the cub. Now, I'm not the only one out here. There is my friend Brent Leo Smith, who is rearing to go. And it sounds like he's already had a keen eagle eye, because he's spotted some tracks that he'd like to tell you about.
Well, we have, unfortunately, lots of hyena tracks. Well, fortunately, we are getting closer and closer to where that elephant carcass is. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have the one, the only Batman on camera this morning. And I had some leopard tracks a bit earlier, but they have been lost under all the hyena tracks that are up and down Weaver's Nest. I'm just having a quick look here, and I can't see them anymore. Now, lots of stuff was happening overnight. The poor Nkuhumas failed to get a plump buffalo. Shame, they're going to be very hungry now. And now, actually, one of the bigger things is, last night in camp, there was a card game. And for today, the Batman is no longer the Batman. There is a game that starts with a bad word and ends with head. And that is the Batman this morning. Oh dear, Batman. Oh dear. Any comment? He's just hanging his head in shame. Okay, let's head towards the carcass. Woof! Rebecca is feisty this morning. Now, for those of you who don't know who Rebecca is in final control, feeding through comments and questions that you send. And if you want to send comments and questions, hashtag Safari Live, or just pop it on whichever feed you're watching on. Now, Rebecca wants to know, what is it like to be paired up with a loser cameraman this morning? Wow. Wow, that's quite harsh, Bex. Batman's even blushing now. It's going to be a tough day for the bat. Or the head. Or the head. Now, we're just going to have a quick look at the carcass. Updates on the camera. We're having a few little technical difficulties with it. Hopefully we're going to have it up and running during the day today. We will be on it straight after drive again to try fix it. Oh, that's pretty. Very, very pretty. Vultures in the sunrise. Isn't that lovely? Now, it is going to be a gorgeous day today. It is going to get... Woof! I can smell the elephant from here. And we're still quite far away. It is going to be quite hot, I think, later on during the day. And hopefully, Steph will be out shortly on foot. And I know a lot of you have missed seeing Steph. So Madam McCurdy is having a little nappy this morning. And Steph will be out. So it's an all always a fair. Okay, wow. Wow. That carcass is smelling, if I can smell it from this far. Now, of course, you never know what might have arrived at the carcass overnight, which is always exciting. Okay, oh, there's a hyena disappearing into the grass. Oh, and there's a hyena behind that bush, but it seems like there's a lot of hyena at the carcass. So let's go have a look. Now let's hope the strong stomachs are working this morning, because the carcass is getting more and more putrid every single hour. Oof, lots of hyenas this morning. It's just, oh, hyena roadblock in front of us even. Hello. You're looking a bit sheepish. Why aren't you at the carcass? There's at least 7 or 8 hyenas at the carcass, so I'm going to sneak past this one. Hello, Howard. Still lots of vultures around. I was hoping there might be some jackal around this morning as well. Let's just sidle in. Ah, interesting, interesting. We've got some sub-adult hyenas here. Come on, let's get over the bump. There we go. It's okay, vultures. There we go. Isn't that absolutely fascinating? And macabre sunrise this morning. Oh, hang on, sorry, I'm just listening. Some alarm calls down towards Twin Dams. I wonder if Hosana is around again. Now you can see, so far we've only had jackal, hyena and vultures on the carcass, Nina. The lions haven't come here. Well, if you're a male lion, they haven't come here because they're not around. I think the Nkuhumas walk straight past this carcass because they are scared that if they do start feeding on this carcass, the possibility of the evokers arriving at the carcass is quite high. So I think they've decided it's not worth the risk. Some very fat hyenas around. Now, as I said, there is a sub-adult. It's the one off to the right. There we go, that little fat-bellied thing there. So on big carcasses, it's not unusual for hyenas to bring young to the carcass, especially in a carcass the size that they can't bring any of the meat back to the den. Now, we're not currently sure exactly where the den is. We just know it's not on Djuma at the moment. And we think it's to the north. A couple of brave vultures still there. Now we've had hyena, we've had leopard, and no lions just yet, but no wild dogs either, Lynn. And Lynn, wild dogs would stay away from a carcass like this. Firstly, they're not the biggest fans of rotting meat. I mean, they will eat it in desperation. But secondly, and most importantly, I think, like the Nkuhumas, have decided this time that it's a bit too dangerous. So there's always a possibility of lions and whatnot appearing at any second, and that could pose a very big threat to the wild dogs. So that's why they would stay away from carcasses like this. If running through, they might stop for a quick look and then keep moving. But as I say, it's always interesting around these carcasses. You never know what could appear, and that's why it's so important to check, and hopefully we'll have that camera operating by around midday today. You can see that early morning light creeping through. Well, a big welcome to Louise, who's a brand new viewer. Hello, Louise. Not only are we filming in the Greater Kruger National Park, but we are live. We are just to the west of the Kruger in what is called the Greater Kruger. We're in the Sabi Sand Game Reserve. Oh, hello, little fluff ball, coming right up to us. Hello, you. So we are in the private reserves that are just to the west of Kruger, but there is no fence between us and Kruger. So it is completely open. There we go. Young hyena, probably around a year old. Oh, there's a wound on the right shoulder. But hyenas at this age, you can see they're still very fluffy. Hey, fluffball. Oh, it heard about Craig losing at cards last night and decided, no, I'm going to walk around. Now, you can actually hear that hyena on the left there using its incisors to cut open some of the elephant skin. You hear that. I should keep quiet, see if it does it again. Well, it seems to have cut open a nice spot, getting onto the meat now. And you can see that meat is already greeny grey, it's so rotten. Now, yesterday while we were setting up, installing stuff around there, Tristan and I noticed that the trunk hadn't been eaten. And Puma, it's because the easiest part to eat of the trunk, which is where they normally start, which is down at the tip, is actually stuck under the carcass. So that's why it hasn't eaten, no one's eaten the trunk yet, but I'm sure they will get to it, probably today. Oh, another hyena running in. Oh, hyena, that was close. That hyena nearly got bombed on by a whiteback vulture sitting above. That missed that hyena by a few centimeters. This is an absolute feast for the scavengers. Now, if you look carefully on that carcass, you can actually see steam coming out of it. So that decomposing, you see the steam coming out to the right of the hyena. So the decomposing is actually creating heat, also with all those maggots. So in the cold morning air, you can see the mist or steam coming off the elephant carcass. There we go. See when the hyena turns its head to the sides to use its incisors to cut through the thick flesh, although it seems like something might have been nipping it, it decided to just stop and check. We're going to stay at the carcass for a little bit longer to see what happens, and I think we're going to go see what spotted cats we can find. In the meantime, the man is out on foot. It is Stefan Winterboer.
Look at that, it's amazing Brent can actually say anything with that smell coming from that elephant this morning and all the steam that's apparently coming out of the carcass. Yes, it is right. I am on bushwalk again for the first time in many weeks, and although a bit of a late start this morning, I must be honest, better late than never. Now, my name is Stef Winterboer, for those of you who haven't met me before, and we are walking around here on Djuma Private Game Reserve, and we'll be doing so for the rest of today's show. And I'm actually looking forward to it immensely. I haven't been out for a walk in what feels like months, when it was just sort of the other day in February. Much different bush to when I was last out. It's rained a little bit over the last couple of weeks and last couple of months, and what's happened is the grass has grown. So I'm looking forward to wading my way through some seas of grass, and this will be the last few weeks that we have this happening. By May, all this grass will be lying flat, and it'll go back down to quite a sandy substrate, I would imagine, by the time June and July arrives. Now, that dead elephant that Brent is with is going to create the most unbelievable well of animals. It's going to create a gravity of animals around it. All the scavengers, ranging from jackal through hyena, lion and leopard, are going to have smelt that carcass by now, everyone that is in this vicinity at least anyway, and are all going to be moving towards that carcass to some degree or another. If they haven't visited it, they should visit it. An elephant is just the most amazing amount of food and nutrition, and will for many, many years to come provide food for a whole variety of animals. It's not just the big exciting stuff that we get to see now with Brent, for instance, and over the last couple of days there's been vultures and hyena, jackal and leopard, and I think the lions, Tristan said that the lions had been there once or twice, but also all the insects, all the other smaller rodents that will come in now and get their little taste of meat. Things even like terrapins, tortoises. Let me see what else is going to come in there. Only just the insects are what I'm interested in, and that elephant carcass is going to be active there for the next couple of weeks. It's going to be this heaving mass of insects, and then slowly over the next couple of months it's going to slowly break down, and over the next couple of years will be spread out. Hyena will take bone away to dens as chew things for their cubs, and potassium and calcium. Forgetting my brain at the moment. Even shrews, tiny little rodents, will come and gnaw on the carcass over time and get the deficiencies in minerals that they don't get from their general food built up. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens around that carcass for many, many weeks to come still. This must be one of my favorite places on the whole of Djuma. It is a lovely viewscape of all these really big trees, and then out over the valley and down the valley towards where Brent is at the moment. There's some mist in that valley, and we're going to be walking in there a little bit later. Without further ado though, let's go and see what is on the way to that carcass with Brent.
Well, listen, we can hear a hyena calling. Such a lovely sound. Now, Steph was speaking about mist, and you can just see the heat coming off that carcass. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? So the decomposition is creating quite a bit of heat. And as the sun is heating up, you can hear the vultures moving in. You see how they're flapping as they land in the tree above the carcass. And 1 or 2 brave vultures are already on the ground. Here we go, the vultures are dropping down. Just listen to the flaps as they come in. Now, there's still a lot of meat left on this rotting carcass, and banana, hyenas, vultures, lions and leopards won't get sick from eating rotting meat. They have a very different immune system to us, and they are able to digest rotten meat. Now, hyena chasing the vultures. I think you're outnumbered there. The hyena is getting very outnumbered very quickly. You just see as they drop. It's the vulture army, and that hyena is giving up the battle with the vultures. Oh, just look at them descend. That hyena gave up calling. Just look at that, isn't that incredible? It's an absolute free for all with vultures. Sounds amazing. It is an absolute scrum of vultures. It's going to be very interesting to see if any hyenas come back to chase them off, or are the hyenas so fat and full they don't mind that the vultures get their share. It's absolutely amazing. Wow. Okay, we're going to sit here for a bit longer and see if anything comes into this carcass. While we do that, let's go back to Steph, who's found a feathered friend who's passed.
We don't quite know what has happened with this poor plover or lapwing. It's definitely been stood on and trampled a bit, but it also looks like it's been eaten as well. I'm unsure of at this moment whether it was just trampled into this state that we see now, or whether it was actually caught and then this herd of impala that has been milling around here then just stood on it some more. But it's not uncommon to find trampled animals out here in amongst herds. And Wiem was just busy telling me that in the Mara he quite often found things like porcupines and other slower nocturnal animals trampled by the massive wildebeest that were moving up and down. So right now there doesn't seem to be any tracks of anything here. There's just tracks of this particular bird. This is its track here. You can see the quite unique long middle toe with a bulb at the end, and then only 1, 2, 3 toes. They don't have a fourth toe, and that is evidenced by its track here. You can see 2 smaller toes with a third toe on the outside, no fourth toe, which is very common amongst the perching birds. So this bird's tracks come in here, and then it is very weird. Anyway, one for the mystery books. Now, the nice news about this is that some lion last night have been hunting some buffalo. Now, when we closed down last night at around about 8 o'clock, the buffalo and the lion were just here, and Tristan has managed to find the buffalo just there, which means that somewhere between here and there, we've got some lion hanging around. So that's what we're going to be looking for this morning. That's what we're going to be giving a hand to do. Now, Hunter, you'd like to know if vultures will eat that little bird. A hooded vulture, definitely. You most probably find that these carcasses that lie on the road like this are scooped up by the carrion-feeding eagles before the vultures. So Battaliers and tawny eagle are most likely going to eat it, but that'll get gobbled up quite easily by a jackal or a hyena just as quickly. And so hyenas sort of blanket walk across Djuma and across this area. I would say that almost every single road gets walked every night by at least a single hyena. That's how comprehensive their cover is here. Leopard also gobbled it up as well, but I don't think that vultures would be the first ones to eat it. However, it is lying in the open, and so why not? And absolutely feasible. Right, why don't we go to Brent and see his hyena and put some body to the story I'm talking about.
The hyenas are not on the carcass at the moment. We've just got an absolute ton of vultures. It doesn't mean the hyenas are not going to be back shortly, as I think they might be. I think the thought of the vultures having all the fun is too much for them. Now we're going to have some of our friends on different platforms joining us, so I'm going to be quiet for a few seconds. Hello and welcome live to the magnificent Sabi Sands Game Reserve in South Africa. We are sitting at an elephant carcass. The elephant was killed in a battle with a bigger elephant bull, but nothing goes to waste out here in the African bush as the scavengers have descended and are devouring every single inch of this carcass. We have vultures and hyenas all around us, and you never know what might show up next. You can see a hyena approaching the carcass now. It might chase the vultures. There we go, look at that. Now remember, this is 100% live. This is happening right now in real time, and the hyena's moving off. Now, my name is Brent Leo Smith. I have my good friend Craig on camera. And as I said, this is 100% live. Please put your questions in the feed below. I would love to hear from you. So let's get back to the action at the carcass. Now, this type of noise might attract lions, leopard, the hyenas are already here, but they've been here for 2 days already. They are fat and full and happy. And let's see if a hungry hyena comes in and decides to chase the vultures off. There's a hyena coming in from the right. What are you going to do? Quite often, animals can be quite nervous around the carcass. You can see this hyena's keeping a check out, making sure that there isn't a lion. I think this hyena is new to the carcass, just arrived. There you go, it's going in now. And if he's not careful, the vultures will eat it all before he gets a chance there. Now, there are possibly, there you go. Close to 100 vultures. Justin said there must be more than 50. I think there are more than 50, and there are more vultures coming in every second. Now, at the moment we can only see 2 or 3 hyenas around. Oh, sorry, I thought I saw a leopard for a second. There has been a young male leopard who's been coming in, but it is another hyena. Hyena clans vary in size, Darian. They can be as large as 120 or as small as 10. The clan in this area is around 30, so it all just depends. There are varying different sizes of clans. But hyena is so nervous that something else might be there. What it could be is it could be a hyena from a different clan, and it's worried about the main clan from this area coming in and sorting it out. You see, there's a couple of hyenas around. Now, around here, it is a very smelling, and the smell of this carcass with a human nose can be smelled at about 2 kilometers at the moment, Vanessa. But if you're a hyena or a lion, you can probably smell that at triple that distance. I'm just going to keep quiet and let you listen to the sounds of the vultures feeding and squabbling for a second. The one word to describe vultures on a carcass is pandemonium. Now, it's not that common for elephants to kill each other in fights. So, Benji, I'm glad you're enjoying this for the first time. It is a very rare sighting and special to behold, even though it is quite sad that the elephant was killed during a battle with another elephant, but that is nature and that is life out here in the African bush. Now, it's been here, this carcass has been here for 2 days already, and it'll probably take another 3 or 4 days before this carcass is completely demolished, Ryan. There we go, the hyena's now starting to chase the vultures. The vultures have a perseverance. And yeah, some hyenas wooing as I try to get into that carcass. Now, every now and then the hyenas will chase the vultures, but when there's this many vultures, it's often quite a challenge to keep them all away, Sherry. And if they're too busy chasing vultures and not eating, they might not get enough food. So, hyenas and vultures have a sort of uncomfortable truce at a carcass. The hyenas will snap at the vultures. But there we go, just like that. But if there were lions or any other catcher, the vultures would be far, far more careful because the cats are that much quicker. Now, we've got all those vultures squabbling over the kill, but some of them have finished. They have filled their crops, and there we go. Look at that. You can just see how full of elephant meat that vulture is, Arizona. So it's full, and it's now sunning itself after a cool evening out. And as soon as they've finished digesting, they'll get straight back into that carcass. Now, vultures can eat an incredible amount of meat, and sometimes they do eat so much zephyr that they struggle to fly, but not that they can't fly. They do struggle to fly, though, sometimes. Now, there's lots of different species of vultures in Africa, Edith, but at the moment we only have 3 species at this carcass. We have white-backed, cape, and hooded. Now, the white-backed are by far the most prevalent and common, and most of the vultures are white-backed. I can't actually see a cape at the moment. What we're doing is looking for a light-colored eye. And that tells you a cape, and the hooded is quite distinctively much smaller, with a much smaller beak. I can't see any hoodeds either at the moment. It seems like mostly white backs. Now, for those of you who might have joined in a little bit late, we are sitting next to an elephant bull who was killed in a battle with another elephant bull, and the carcass has been here for, this is the 3rd day now, and the scavengers are having the best time. We've had hyenas and vultures all around this carcass. Now, oh, look at that! That was a good jump, hyena. Hyenas are starting to get a little bit irritated with the vultures while they're feeding. Now, you can join us live for another few hours to see what happens next year. Just Google Safari Live, and you should be able to find us bringing you this live African wildlife. In the meantime, I'm going to give you one last view of the chaos and carnage at the carcass before we say goodbye, and hopefully we'll see you soon. There we go. Chaos and carnage. Goodbye. So, welcome back. Everyone, do you recognize these hyenas? Does anyone recognize these hyenas? Are these hyenas from the Djuma clan, or have they sneaked in from the south? Because they are behaving very, very strangely. Quite nervous. They keep looking in the direction that the other hyenas left earlier. So, do you guys recognize these hyenas? Are they part of the Djuma clan? Ah, the first old man has arrived. The first old man of the bush has arrived. Marabou stork. There we go. No, he stopped there. Hopefully he'll move up towards the carcass a little bit later. In the meantime, you can see quite a lot of vultures have their wings open like that. And they're just drying out, Djuma. They would have got quite a lot of heavy dew overnight, and so the sun's out. So they've opened up their wings to dry out a little bit, dry off the dew from the night. Now, scavengers form a very important part of the environment, cleaning up the cleanup crew, so to speak, helping alleviate disease and all sorts. Katie, I think most parts of the world, yes, apart from Antarctica, will have, or even though Antarctica's got plenty of as well, birds that scavenge and the skewers. But yes, so almost everywhere on Earth will have scavenging birds to come clean up what's left behind. The hyenas are very nervous, these two. Now I know Tristan's been desperately searching for the Nkuhumas, and let's go see if he's had any luck.
Well, we have been searching for the Nkuhumas and we haven't found them yet because we've been interrupted by this herd of buffalo that the Nkuhumas have been tormenting for the last 24 hours. We know that they were close to them yesterday and then they followed them last night, tried to have a go at them all night at the dam, and their tracks come back here. They went north towards Buffelshoek and then the lions came back towards these buffalo and they're all around. I've got tracks for lions all around these buffalo. We just can't find the lions themselves. So I think they're somewhere here just watching this buffalo herd. Much like what we saw yesterday morning, they kind of trail them all night and then they lie down and rest and then they try and catch up with them again during the course of the evening. So at the moment it's all peaceful and quiet and everybody's having a bit of a rest. I'm sure the buffalo are tired. They must have put up a brave defense to protect a little calf like that during the night. It went on for hours, the buffalo and lion incident at the dam last night at Gowrie Dam. I believe they were in a standoff until about 12 o'clock, which is a long time given that it started somewhere around 7, 8. And so these guys might be a little on the tired side, but the bulls obviously did their job. And there's 3 absolute monster males that are in this particular herd. There's one that's just backing into the herd itself. You can see, look at the size of his horns. He's got really big set of horns. It's the same fellow we saw the other day that came in from sort of Buffelshoek areas about 2 days ago that we saw him, but he's going to be monstrous when he gets older. It's still a young bull, but he's got huge set of horns, and they obviously did their job perfectly last night to be able to keep this herd safe and keep these little calves safe. You've got to give it to the Nkuhumas, though. They are relentless. They have just carried on following this herd all that night long. They, like I say, tracks were going along the Buffelshoek cut line, and I'm sure they heard these buffalo and just came straight south back towards them again. And I think they're lying very close to us. There's a very steep, deep drainage just on our western side, and it's an area where the Nkuhumas spend a lot of their time. I know that when they were denning in that drought season, this is where they lived. And in fact, the first time that I saw the current Nkuhuma sub-adults was actually in this den, or in this sort of drainage line with Brent one day. So this is a place that they know very well, and they kind of probably have gotten into the thickets and the drainage sections where they can, 1, have shade, and 2, can rest and try and kind of watch these buffalo and see what the buffalo get up to. And then you never know with them. They might have a go at them this morning. They might have just decided that they're going to do what they did yesterday, and it's sleep during the hot part of the day and then try again during the course of the night. But they definitely had a go at them the whole evening. And you can see that one buffalo is missing the tip of its tail. So the one that's chewing there to the left of that has got a stumpy tail. So the buffalo could very well be more edgy. They don't really seem like it, do they? The thing is, when we first found these buffalo, we were actually tracking the lions, and the lions' tracks were coming straight down, and then we saw buffalo tracks running across the road, and then more lion tracks coming down, and so they kind of all popped their heads up as soon as we came around the corner. But they seem as though they're fairly relaxed at the moment. Every now and then you see one putting its nose to the air, and so if they have had an altercation with lions, it hasn't been in the last few minutes or in the last hour, I would say. These buffalo are all lying down, they're ruminating, they're, I think, just trying to recuperate. So I think whatever happened with this particular section and where the lions chased the buffalo here must have been a few hours ago, and everybody's kind of found their place to settle for now until they do around 20 whatever this evening. They've had, I don't even know how many times this herd must have been hunted by lions, but they'll know what goes on, and now it's just about recuperating and resting before the onslaught again this evening. It's tough to be a herd of buffalo in areas like this. There's lions all around them, and so they're really going to have a tough time. Now, interestingly enough, with the pride tracks that come down, it looks like there's one Birmingham male that's joined them somewhere along the line. It looks like a male track in amongst all of the female tracks that come from Buffelshoek, so kind of join and then they come into this particular section. And the lions, like I said, they were all over this place, and I've got tracks of them on the sort of the road side on the eastern side. We have tracks on the southern side, the northern side, and the western side of this buffalo herd, all milling around. So the tracks don't really have a definite direction that they're going. So what I think has happened is that the lions have found them, chased them, didn't get it right, and now what they're doing is just sitting in kind of almost in a circling motion, just trying to position themselves where they can watch this herd. And what they'll be targeting is not the buffalo that's standing up there, the one just to the right of that, Dave. There's a buffalo standing up that is not looking very good at all. So that individual over there, that's the kind of buffalo that they're going to be targeting. You see, it's very thin. Its hip bones are sticking out. Probably a much weaker individual than some of the others here. And so they're going to try and separate individuals like that, or the calves, because that's going to be a much easier takedown than one of these big, massive bulls that we see. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Now, while I try and kind of figure out where the lions are, I'm going to leave these buffalo for now. We're going to go and try and see if we can find where these lions have gone. Isn't that cute, that little calf? While I do all of that, Steph is on foot, and he's apparently got one of the biggest animals we have out here.
We've got a huge bull elephant that's walking just in front of us. We've been tracking these lions, and we bumped into him wandering through the bush. So, he did hear us while we were tracking these lions, and he's now moved off. He doesn't know that we're here, but he's now moving sort of, you can see with that head up, his ears are higher than the level of his shoulders, and he's holding his head relatively high up. That's the alert posture of an elephant. He's standing about 60 yards. There he's moving off. You can see that sort of determined stride. And there's just an early bull that is not happy with the environment that he was in. And so we've got tracks of these lions where we're standing right now. He was coming down a game path, and we just met each other on the game path. He didn't know we were here. We saw him before he saw us, but he did end up hearing us. And he was very quiet, and noise travels quite far out here, especially on calm mornings like this. And he just got a little bit uncomfortable, lifted his head up, and then decided to create distance, which is exactly and perfectly normal out here. No encounter, no aggression, no need for us to retreat to a termite mound, just two people meeting each other in the bush. Now, Hunter, you'd like to know if it's scary being on foot beside a giant like that, and that was really one of the big elephant out here. Hunter, it's... You have to have a fair amount of caution or cautious approach out here. We've lost our ability to operate in a natural environment like this, and even though you can work for 10, 20, 30 years in an environment like this, you never really feel like you are plugged in if you don't work in the bush. And I'm talking about walking around in it every single day. Driving around in it is different, living in it is different, but walking and interacting with these animals. So it's important to, for a trails guide like myself, for instance, to constantly inject a little bit of humility into the way that you approach the bush, and not get too complacent, because it's at that point that an animal that's big and majestic and quite epic to bump into becomes one of the most dangerous animals that you could possibly encounter out here. If you disrespect that elephant, if you are too confident, and if you don't heed what the bush is telling you, you can get yourself into a situation here that's life-threatening, not just for yourself but for that animal as well. So full on respect out here all the time, absolute humility, and we're going to leave that elephant to do what he needs to do, and we're going to carry on and see if we can find these lions. Now, the tracks that we're following are from early last night, and I know that because inside one of the paw prints that we've been following has been the tiny pitfall traps of the antlions. Now, antlions are nocturnal. They move around at night. They build their pitfall traps. It takes them a couple of minutes to do it, but this particular track had about 6 or 7 in it, and so they're not fresh tracks. They're not as fresh as what I'd like them to be, but these lions are not too far away from here. They're somewhere in this bush, hopefully feeding on a buffalo, but we'll find that out as we carry on with more of this today. Right, we're going to send you over to Tristan. He's also got some lion tracks. I'm hoping that the tracks that he has is a little bit fresher than mine, but and you know, let's hope that terminates in the same thing.
Well, Steph, I think mine are a little fresher than yours, given that I know the lions were on the dam cam at around 12, the last ones we've seen, and these tracks that we followed have gone all the way from the dam, up Gari Cut Line, along Buffelshoek boundary, and have now come down south on Mvubu Road. And so what I'm doing is I'm just trying to check around in the drainage section just behind these buffalo to try and see if these lions are here. I had tracks heading in this direction, and so I'm just trying to check if maybe the pride is lying up somewhere here watching what's going on, much like what we saw yesterday morning. So that's the kind of plan at the moment, and it's going to be a massive help to have Steph and Rex on foot. They're going to really help us try and actually get, you know, these lions, particularly if they're in areas like this, because it's going to be so difficult for us to find them. Now, I'm going to try and just check also Galago Pan. That's where I'm going to have a little look quickly and just have a check to see if they haven't come down to the pan itself. Now, nothing that I can see so far. Nope, nothing there. I thought maybe, just maybe, they might just be lying on that 2-track road, or maybe even here at the dam, given that they've been chasing buffalo. They might have been a bit thirsty, so I'm just going to try and have a little look on the top here while I head towards the pan, send you back to Brent with the feeding frenzy.
It truly is a feeding frenzy. The hyenas have moved off and the vultures have descended. Look at that. I think we're not going to spend too much longer here to see what else we might be able to find out and about on Djuma this morning. But there is definitely a hierarchy amongst vultures, Sid. And the big bosses at the moment at this carcass are the Cape vultures, although I haven't seen any this morning. Oh, there's one juvenile Cape vulture, the one who's trying to get Craig to pick one vulture out of that scrum of vultures. It's quite difficult. Come down to the right a little bit, Craig. There's a light-coloured vulture, that one there. Let's just have a look at that. Looks like a Cape. We have to wait to see its head. Yes, there's a Cape vulture. Now, you saw, instead of a dark eye, it's got a light eye. So they are the dominant vultures at the moment on, there's just fights going on everywhere. On the carcass, they are bigger and stronger and have a longer neck. There are a couple of them around. And then the white-back vultures are next. The hooded vultures are right down at the bottom. But sometimes sheer mass of numbers works in your favor, and that's what the white-backs are throwing. That there looks like another Cape vulture standing up. And you'll notice that around the Cape vultures there's far less squabbling. And there's some hooded vultures walking in the distance down there, Craig. Down there. So there we go. You can see there's a hooded vulture. And you can see how much smaller they are than even the white-backed vultures. Now, if we were to walk into the sighting on foot, Safari Dean, yes, we would definitely chase the vultures. They would take off. But in the vehicle, if we keep nice and still, Ah, there's the marabou stork again behind the carcass. Hasn't quite made his way in. There we go, directly behind. There he is. And the first of the marabou storks. I think what it's doing at the moment is picking up all the scraps. There's a lot of pieces of stomach and meat spread far and wide around this elephant carcass. So at the moment, that's what the stork's doing. He might be a little bit nervous of us. So also that's another reason I want to leave. If the stork wants to come in, rather give him the opportunity to do so. So there we go. Now, if you look at that marabou stork's legs, you can see they're actually very, very white. But that is not their color. They're actually dark gray, but the marabou storks defecate on their legs as a form of thermoregulation to try keep themselves cool. So the white reflecting quite a bit of the heat. Oh, hyena's back. Oh, vultures fighting, hyenas wading. The sounds are incredible here, and not the nicest sounds in the African bush, but I don't mind them too much. There's Rebecca saying, why are my ears not bleeding with all this noise? Well, you're sort of so enthralled in the behavior that's happening that you don't really focus on the noise. Hyenas, just go to the hyenas behind us. Might be something there. You can see the submissive behavior. Oh, they're running off now from the one on the left. I'm still surprised we haven't seen any white-headed or white-backed vultures. White-headed or lappet-faced vultures at this carcass. Wow, look at that vulture just walking away from the hyena there. Look how big its crop is. That one there. Look at that thing. It could not eat another morsel. My goodness, that vulture might be too fat to fly. Oh, it's definitely going to need a run-up to get going. Oh, there's some fat vultures here. Well, there's a nice view of a cape here. That's a very pale one to the left, Craig. There we go. It's moved away from the carcass a bit. Go right centre frame. Now, when it turns its head, you should be able to see the nice... No, it's not. It's not a cape. It's a very, very pale whiteback. Let's try to see if I can spot another cape that's not deep inside the carcass. Well, we might come back here a little bit later, but in the meantime, I think I'm going to go see what else we can find out in and about on Djuma. Let's just actually wait 1 second. Let's see what happens with those hyenas in front of us. Just look, so you can see that flat ears, submissive behavior. Oh, it's looking so sheepish. Looks like a bad puppy. I've done something wrong. I'm sorry. No, I thought there might be a bit of interaction, a bit of fighting, but it sounds like Tristan is nearly caught up with the Nkuhumas.
Well, we are catching up with them in the terms of that we know that they haven't come out of this area at all, and so they must be just where those buffalo are. So now it's just a matter of pinpointing their exact location, which I think is probably you find lying somewhere on that drainage line side. Now, I believe we've got maybe something on the lens, so please excuse Dave's hand as he wipes on the lens there and blocks maybe what's going on for 2 seconds. It might be a little spider web or a bit of water that we picked up when we went off-road just now for those buffalo. Sometimes you get a little leaf that hits the lens itself, and then you get a situation where a little bit of water gets on it and causes a smudge. So I do apologize about that, but anyway, it's what it is. We'll carry on. Now, just trying to see if we can find where these lines went. So it's interesting kind of watching how these lines have moved over the course of the last sort of 24 hours. Even though they are as skinny as they are, and Brent said to me that they're very skinny. I mean, I haven't seen personally, but Brent tells me that they are incredibly skinny, and yesterday when I saw them in the morning, they were all lying down and they didn't really look too bad, but he said that they were very hungry. And so it's interesting that they walked right past that elephant carcass, because their tracks went pretty much to the elephant carcass. They kind of just turned their nose up by the looks of things and carried on. And I suppose it's because there is fresh buffalo around, and in the Nkuhumas world, a dead elephant versus a fresh buffalo is probably a bit like a situation where you've got maybe something that you want to go and dig out of the garbage as opposed to a fine restaurant in the Nkuhumas' eyes. And so that's maybe why they have just kind of carried on and rather chose to hunt buffalo than go and scavenge off a big elephant carcass. It seems silly though, because they could have gotten themselves at least some nutrients to kind of get them going and keep them nice and full. But it's interesting though, I don't know why the Sabi Sands lions just don't like elephants. It's a thing that I've seen countless times with the lions here. All of them, they kind of go to the carcass because they're attracted by the vultures and various other things, but they never actually feed off it and sit for any long periods of time. I don't know if maybe it's all the commotion of the vultures, or if it's a situation where they just don't like elephant, that they don't sit there, because it's not that lions don't eat elephants. Lions like elephants in other parts of the world, just here they just don't like them for some reason. Do you think our lions are introverts, Rebecca, that they don't like all the commotion around the carcass? Okay. So Rebecca's saying they just their own little family. They don't need to go anywhere else. They don't want anybody else around. They just want to have a good time as a family and find what they need. So fair enough. Nkuhumas want to be in their own little group, and so hopefully we'll find them pretty shortly. I'm sure they're going to be sleepy though. I don't think they're going to be doing too much hunting of this buffalo herd, given that they've been following it around for quite some time. But you can see where they came from. They came down the road like this, and obviously they had an interaction with some ellies, maybe the same ones that Steph saw, and then after the elephants, which they then bypassed and got around. You can see all the debris on the road as I'm driving. They then eventually came across the buffalo here, and this is where they chased the buffalo initially. There's lots and lots of tracks of them kind of running across the road. So now, while I try and kind of figure out where exactly these lions were, the last tracks I had is just up ahead here, going into the bush behind these buffalo, and so I'm going to try and see if I can find them. But in the meantime, Steph is also trying to find them and is on foot.
So we've been following these lion tracks basically from last night to now in terms of chronology, and we have some tracks on the floor here to show you. Quite a fresh one in actual fact. This is of a lion here. You can see it there. We've tracked them through the bush. This is the planter's pad, the back of the pad, and here are the toes. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 toes there. So if you had to put your fingers on this and see which one fits the profile the best, you can see that that one there fits the profile the best. So this is the back foot, the back right foot of a lion, and there's a couple of lions walking here. It's not just this one, we've got a couple. Let's see if we can find you some other ones. We've got some squirrels busy making an alarm call here. We've got some cloud rolling in, so things are changing this morning. It's quite dynamic, to be quite honest with you. There's no wind here where we are. But up there, obviously, there's a lot. And we're going to be losing the sun in a couple of minutes. Have a look at this cloud bank that's busy rolling in here. And that's going to change the ability of us to see these tracks. The light's going to get flat, and so there's going to be no shadows. And from there, we're going to have to start using our intuition to figure out where these animals are. Now, these lions enjoy walking to this area at night time from the pan, and so I'm fully expecting us to see some or other type of sign of where these cats are here. A bit more. They're either going to go into Buffelshoek. Yeah, you can see a fresh one. You can see here. Justin, you've just asked me a question now about the most common grass seeds that I get stuck in my socks. And while we're looking at this lion track, I can show you that the most common one is this one here. It's called the 3-awn grass, and it's got characteristic, no, that's not going to work. It's got a characteristic 3-awned appearance to it at the back end there, with a harpooned and anchored seed that gets stuck in our socks all over the place here. That and a grass called spear grass are the two most common grasses that we find getting stuck in our socks. You can see this morning from the look of my shoes and my socks that we've been walking around in the grass a lot. Thankfully, no ticks yet, although I'm a magnet for these types of things, and so I don't think that they're too far away. But this is a pretty fresh track of a lioness, and I know that it's a lioness because of that sharp edge that they have to the track there. A male's track would be a lot more rounded. So we're following the pride here, at least portions of the pride. And there's more on this side here. You can't see it, but here's some more tracks. There's toes in the back of the pad. And so this is where the pride has gone. And I don't think they're here somewhere. Almost expecting them to be lying in the road in front of us here. Now, with following lions on a quiet morning like this, quite often they'll see and hear you way before you see and hear them, unless they're sleeping already. And all you get is this rush of tawny-colored bodies and maybe a couple of... well, there you have it. I have a surprise for you. See you just now.
Indeed, so we've managed to get the Nkuhumas pride. They literally are, I don't even know, maybe 100, 150, not even 100 meters from those buffalo. They're just on the backside of them, watching them. And so this kind of back and forth continues between them at the moment. And so we can see here comes one of the big adult lionesses. Hello, girl. Where do you want to go? You want to squeeze through here? Okay. So you can see. She got a bit of a fright because by mistake, when I was leaning on the steering wheel, it moved and made a squeak, and so she got a bit of a fright, and shame. I feel a bit bad about that, but anyway. Now, we're sitting with them, and they're still kind of watching these buffalo. They haven't quite sort of had a go at them, but they're still interested in them. The buffalo are very close, and I think there's a situation where they're starting to get hungry enough that they're going to even attempt maybe a day hunt. And so we're watching these females kind of doing their business and trying to kind of go in, and it seems as though they are all kind of flanking around, because one female we saw disappearing. These are the sub-adults that we're seeing lying in the grass at the moment, so they're not really kind of part of the hunt just yet, but some of the females disappeared going south, some have gone north, and it's almost like they're going around these buffalo now, and I think we might see an epic hunt unfold at some point. If not a hunt, at least a standoff, because this female behind us is very interested in what's going on. I'm actually going to just reverse it a little bit so you can just get an idea of just how close these buffalo are. In fact, we're not even 100 meters. I think maybe even 50 is probably a better sort of idea, but I just want to reverse back so that we can see her and the buffalo, which we should be able to. Can I go back there, Dave? Now, Puma, Have a very interesting question. It's all about, there go the buffalo. They're actually walking at the moment. It's all about sort of lions in different parts of Africa and their preferences as to what they eat. Does that sort of show indication of a different culture within lions? So the thing is with lions in different areas, it's more a learned behavior than anything else. As cubs, they're learning to hunt certain things because of the fact that they are, in an area where there's an abundance of a certain type of animal. So here in the Sabi Sands, buffalo is the best option that they've got for the sizes of the prides that are here. We have prides that sometimes are quite big, and so buffalo is what they generally specialize in, and they learn how to hunt buffalo from the adults from an early age, and that's what the technique and how they get it right, and that's how they kind of work out what's going on. If you take something like lions in parts of Botswana, where there's very few other animals but elephants, those lions are learning to hunt elephants because that's what they need to survive. And so throughout Africa, it's just learned behavior more than anything else. It's their mothers that are teaching them, and it's also a situation where they're adapting to the environment that they're in. They know that they've only got a certain amount of food that they can get. Now look, they're starting to, I think, be very interested in hunting these buffalo. You can see her demeanor is very different to yesterday when the buffalo were around, and yesterday they were kind of just sleepy. They weren't really interested. Here she's watching very carefully. Now the buffalo are drifting in front of her and kind of towards the left hand side in that little thicket. So just beyond this grass line is where the buffalo are going. So you can just see them edging through that thicket over there. That's where the herd is now moving, and so that's why she's watching what's going on. And it's going to be interesting to see if she starts to trot behind them. We might have a situation where they're actually going to hunt effectively. The problem is I can't see any other females, so I don't know if she's kind of going at this on her own. If she is going to go on her own, we're going to have a situation where she's probably not going to get it very good at all. Right, we're going to do a quick broadcast, so I'm just going to keep quiet. Good morning and welcome to South Africa and one of the most epic spectacles you could ever ask for in wildlife. My name is Tristan, and on camera I have got Dave, and like I said to you, we are in South Africa and this is a live interactive situation, and so you can ask as many questions as you would like to, and you can just do that in the comment section below. And I was saying we've got one of the most epic spectacles, and that's because, as you can see, we've got a lioness right next to us who's part of a pride. The rest of the pride is split out, and they are busy hunting buffalo. So it is that timeless struggle that has taken place between these two species for many years. You've got the buffalo that are just drifting in the background. There you go. You can see them kind of in the thickets, looking around, checking what's going on, and then the lions that are watching from this side. Now this is particular herd and lion combination that we've got here has been chasing each other around now for over 24 hours. So these lions latched onto these buffalo early hours of yesterday morning, and they have now kind of followed them all through the night, and they had a tense standoff last night for most of the night until quite late. And then this morning it seems as though this starting to kind of take off again, and they look like they might be interested in going after them. The problem is that this lioness is going to need the help of her fellow lionesses in the pride. There's another 4 in this particular pride, and then there are 6 sub-adults as well. So you can see one of the sub-adults that is sitting at the back. These sub-adults, unfortunately, are still too young to really participate in a buffalo hunt, and so she's going to have to rely on her sisters and her aunts and her mother to be able to try and hunt these particular buffalo. Now, Chris, you're asking where the males are. Chris, we don't really know where the males are at the moment. There's a situation where we've got 4 dominant males that oversee this area and this pride, but lately they've been pulled a lot further south of where we are into a different area where there's other females that have come into estrus, and that's left this area exposed, and another 3 males have come in and are trying to take over, young males that are trying to take over. And so we're not really sure where those 3 males are at the moment and where the 4 that are dominant. What I did find when we were tracking these lions early this morning to try and find them and to try and catch up with them after they were following these buffalo all night is that it seems as though 1 male might have joined this particular pride of the 4, and so maybe we'll have a situation where we're going to see a male joining up or appearing out of these thickets pretty shortly. Rio, we are sitting currently, I would say, maybe that lioness is no more than 10 meters from where we are. There's the edge of the vehicle right there. So she is quite close, and she's not very far away from us, but you can see no interest in us whatsoever. So these lions here have been around vehicles for many, many years. They know that the vehicles are not a threat. They know that vehicles are not food, and so they focus on their natural system. And we try and stay out of their way and try not to get into a situation where we are influencing their behavior, where we're stopping them from being able to hunt or anything like that. And because of that, these animals have become very comfortable with us in their presence. And so it's a situation where we're able to be in close proximities and watch these amazing things unfold when they are behind buffalo and stalking and these kind of things. So we're very fortunate that we've got this situation. Whistler, she is a little on the skinny side. She's not very skinny, but she could do with a meal, and the whole pride itself could do with a meal. They are a pride of 11 in total, so 6 sub-adults, 5 adult females, and if the 4 males are around, then, well, 15 lions, and they need a lot of food. To feed that many mouths means that they've got to get food pretty much, or something big like a buffalo, every 3-4 days to be able to sustain themselves. But it looks like she's almost giving up now. You see, she's no longer looking at the buffalo. She's kind of decided, well, I don't know if the rest of my females are here, my pride mates, and so she kind of looks as though she might be staying away. Now, I'm going to try and just follow her. Lauren, the sub-adults can probably hunt already and be effective in what they do, but they just don't have the bravery yet. They're still kind of learning the ropes and trying to get into a situation where they know what's going on and kind of learn the technique. But funny enough, these particular sub-adults have already actually killed a buffalo, but it was during a period where we had a very bad drought. And the drought meant that a lot of our buffalo, unfortunately, were not feeding very well, and unfortunately, a lot of them were very weak. And so what happened was the lionesses grabbed one of these buffalo, and because it was so weak, it just fell over, and then the cubs were allowed to come in, and they actually were the ones that tried to kill it, and they were young at that stage. They were only about 6-7 months old, and that's very young for lion-buffalo kind of interaction. But because it was just such a weak buffalo, it was a good learning opportunity, and so they actually have gone after buffalo before. Now this lioness is coming back out again, so she's there watching the buffalo a little bit of a look. Now you might notice a vehicle behind them, so there are tourists that come out here to be able to see these animals in person, and so they're lucky enough to be sitting watching what's going on. Good. Well, our lions are still behind the buffalo at the moment. They're not really that interested just yet. They're kind of watching but haven't really made a move, and so we're going to carry on with them. Hopefully you've enjoyed being with us this morning, and hopefully if anything kicks off again and these lions do start to hunt, we will go live fairly shortly. Right, so our young lioness, or one of our lionesses at least, I think it's the youngest one. Is it the youngest one? Looks like her. She's looking as though she really wants a meal. So she's the one that's kind of moving forward. I haven't seen any of the other adult lions. I know that they're here, given that we've got tracks for them, so they're all around, but it's just where the rest are is difficult to say. What's also interesting with her is that you can see that there's still kind of suckle marks, well, not suckle marks, but you can see her teats where the hair is still starting to try and grow back. And the thing is, it doesn't look like there's any fresh suckling that's been happening. So I think it's maybe safe to assume that that little one is no longer here. I didn't see any cub tracks in the tracks that we were following today. It seems as though she's just kind of been moving around, and I don't think there's any chance of that little cub being with the pride. If she's not looking for it and rather is hunting, then I think we have a situation where that cub might not be around. Nikki, she does look desperate. She looks as though she really wants something. She's trying her best, but And like I say, it just doesn't seem to be any support from the rest of the pride. I have not seen a single other lioness yet walking around. It's just her kind of pacing up and down, following these poor buffalo. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. The problem is the buffalo are moving the wrong direction. They're moving straight towards Buffelshoek boundary. And so if the lions do start chasing, I don't know how much longer we're going to actually be able to see what's going on. But let's try and keep up with her. She's at least the active individual that is following this herd. So let's try and see where she goes. Right, now I believe we're all having a good morning so far. Steph with an elephant, we've got the lions, and Brent has now come to the party with a spotted surprise.
Well, the boy who gave me an incredibly hard time yesterday morning, Hukumuri. Oh, he is an impressive looking male leopard. Look at that neck on him. He just looks ready for a fight. Lovely dark coloration as well. He's quite hungry, and he's been taking us on a bit of a wild ride through some thickets, but now he's decided to rest up on a big termite mound. Unfortunately for him, there are no warthog burrows in this termite mound. Hey, big boy. Let's have a look. Now, he has been having a few standoffs with Anderson. I'm just trying to see if there's any fresh cuts since I saw him last. It's been quite a while. He's heard something to the east of us. Now, he is an absolutely gorgeous boy, and as Lynn describes him, such a stunner. He is a very good-looking male leopard. And look at those eyes. Ryan, he does have a scary look to him indeed. He's got that don't mess with me look quite down. And every time I've seen him, he looks grumpy. I think maybe it's just the fact that Craig's on the back of the vehicle. I mean, Shadulu was checking him out the other day. Now, maybe Hukumuri heard via the wire that Craig was the one to stare at. So I didn't get to see his spot pattern properly last time. It looks like a 3-3. There we go. He's got a bit tired now. The morning's actually cooling off. There's that cloud bank Steph was talking about coming in. So it might mean he's going to be mobile for quite a while this morning. He is looking quite hungry. You can see it's an absolutely massive termite mound. One of the biggest ones on Djuma. Now, Hukumuri's a big male leopard, but he's not nearly as big as the Anderson male. So I don't think he's related to Anderson ages. As far as we know, he comes from the Kruger. And he is a big boy, but he's in no means a monster like Anderson or Campan. Or what was the other leopard VM like so much down in Kruger? Vin Diesel, I think they called him. No, he's not nearly as big as those individuals. So he's a big male leopard, but he's not a giant. But often that doesn't matter, because you don't have to be the biggest cat to win the fight. You just have to have the biggest fight in you. And we haven't spent enough time with him to really know what he'd be like in a box with another leopard. But he certainly looks the part. I mean, something he keeps listening to the east of us. Now, we are very close to the western boundary, and I'm hoping that he decides to head east where he keeps looking. Don't look west. That's the wrong way to look. Don't. No. Look the other way. Are we going to play the patience game with Hukumuri? Hopefully he stays inside Djuma. In the meantime, let's go see what the Nkuhumas are up to.
Well, Brent, we are in a very similar boat. We're also playing the patience game with the Nkuhuma Pride. But the good news is that one by one, the lionesses are coming. Our youngest lioness has been contact calling and almost pleading with the rest of them to get to move on. And we're getting one by one, slowly starting to appear from the drainage lines now. And I wonder if that's going to be a call to kind of action from our lions to say, let's get up and start going and actually try and hunt these buffalo and get ourselves something to eat, because I think all of them are looking a little bit on the hungry side. We have the youngest lioness, then we've got the one with the purple eye that is behind us that should be coming. There's some of the sub-adults, and then I saw what I think is amber eyes in the drainage line as well, still coming our way. So it seems as though they're all here. It's just going to be interesting to kind of see how it unfolds. But here they come. Another one is on its way and going to sit right there. Now let's see how this plays out. Are they all going to wait for each other first before they do anything? Seems like it. Seems like everybody's going to be sitting tight until they regroup and all females are together, and then maybe they'll start to follow those buffalo again. But you can see their ears are far more perked today. They're far more awake than what they were yesterday morning. Yesterday morning it just seemed like they were not interested in moving, whereas this morning they seem like they are. Now listen, she's calling. So very low, faint contact call. Now, hopefully the vehicle will turn off at some point. I'm not sure if you can hear it. So I know it's very, very faint, but she's hardly calling, but it's almost like a desperation plea for the rest to come. Well, that's what you call multitasking. She's calling and yawning at the same time. Now you've got to wonder, is she calling for the rest of them to come and help her, or is it a situation where she's still maybe looking for her cub, or is her cub maybe here? Because remember that this is how they often call their little ones too, so it's going to be an interesting kind of situation to see what goes on. She's still staring behind us. I don't see any other lions coming anymore. The sub-adults seem to be still kind of behind. They will eventually come. The more she calls, the more they'll come out and the more that they'll appear, and hopefully we'll have a situation where the rest join. But before we kind of find everybody, let's quickly send you back across to Brent as Hukumuri starts to disappear.
Oh dear, Hukumuri decided to go west. This is our last view of him as he's disappearing into Arathusa. Let me just go a little bit further forward, Craig. I'm just signaling the guys to come because we can't follow from here, but they can. Oh, that's a big bump. There we go. Here he goes. I'm glad we got to see him after he gave us that hard time, making us walk and run and jump around yesterday before he disappeared. How's it? Yeah, no, it's been a while. Yeah, nice to see you. Enjoy. Okay, there we go. He's popped his tail up and he's disappearing. So obviously a squirrel or something spotted him. And hopefully he'll be back in not too long, Trish. We're going to have to go see what else we can find. Oh, well, at least we got to see him. Now, we're going to decide where to go next. While we do that, let's send you back to Tristan with a contact calling line.
Well, Brenty, well done anyway for at least having a view of Hukumuri. It's been a long time since we've seen him, so I'm glad that he's made an appearance, and hopefully he'll come back at some point. Also, hopefully Brent will find some other things. I'm sure he will. Seems to be on a roll this morning, from scavengers to predators, and hopefully more is in the pipeline. Our lions are still sitting, looking desperately towards this drainage line for the rest to come. They're calling constantly, and we can hear the buffalo as well are just drifting slowly but surely further away from where we are. So it's not ideal for these two that maybe are interested in hunting, because the others just don't seem to want to play the game and come with. Shame, girl, are you calling and no one's listening? So, Michael, if this lioness has lost her cub, then in terms of her coming back into estrus would be fairly quick. So she'll come back into estrus within 3-4 weeks. It's not very long after they lose cubs. It sounds silly, but it's a way that nature works, because obviously the lifespan of our wildcats are not very long, and they only have a certain amount of time that they can produce cubs, and so they will try and have as many as they can, and so the body will just kick into estrus very, very quickly, and she'll be able to start mating. Whether or not a male finds her during that estrus is the next question, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because I think if we have females that are in estrus, it's going to cause a big stir here, because those Avoca boys are going to maybe pick it up and try, and will the Nkuhumas be smart enough to mate with both Avocas and Birminghams in order to just future-proof their cubs? I don't know. It's going to be a very, very interesting situation, so we'll just have to wait and see. The buffaloes sound like they actually might be turning and coming back a little bit. I actually can see some of them through the bush. It looks like there are some of them coming back this way. Maybe her calls are triggering some of the buffalo to turn back in our direction. So they're not very visible at all. I can just see some horns moving every now and then behind a thicket. That's just where that lioness is looking. So I wonder if maybe, just maybe, her calls are kind of getting the buffalo riled up a bit, and the buffalo turning in our direction. But shame, girl, there's no one listening to you. It's a very woeful call this morning. You can almost hear the frustration as she does it more and more. It starts to get louder and more kind of drawn out. Shame. She really is a beautiful individual, though. She's one of my favorites within the Nkuhuma pride. See, she's also just sniffing the air. The scent of those buffalo will be drifting straight towards her now, because the wind's coming from them. So that's maybe why she just picked her nose up like that, just to smell what's going on. Must be difficult, though, if you have to rely on your entire pride to hunt an animal and half of them are not interested. It must make life quite hard. Jared's buddy, no, I don't think the other lioness will comfort her at all. I don't think we'll have a situation where, any of the other lionesses are going to go and rub up on her and kind of sit with her. It's a situation where all these lionesses have lost cubs in the past, and unfortunately it's part of being a wild animal, and they don't have the same kind of way of dealing with things as what we do. We as people tend to be a lot more emotional in some respects than what lions are. Lions, there's this will to survive and this drive to survive, and so as soon as they lose a cub, yes, they have a period where they are constantly calling and there's a perceived sadness in their eyes, but they're soon going to be mating, and their focus will be to survive, to feed themselves, and also to now produce another litter. And so the other lionesses won't go and comfort her for any other reason. They won't go, they'll bond with her and they'll rub up against her and they'll be part of the pride, but they're not going to give her any extra special attention than she would have had when she still had cubs around. So now it seems like this other lioness is also starting maybe to contact call, which is good news. So the more that they do it, hopefully the more it will rile up the others and get them going. And the buffalo are also still bleating and bellowing in the distance. So while we kind of wait for this to unfold, let's send you back across to Steph, who I believe is staring into a puddle. Now, unfortunately, Steph seems to be having a little problem with his mic and his audio, so you're back with us and our lions, who are slowly but surely kind of, I don't know if they're willing to want to get up because there's yawning going on, there's a bit of grooming happening, and so I wonder if there's a situation where they're thinking about maybe getting up and going and trailing these buffalo a little more, or if they're going to go back down to the drainage where the rest of the pride is. But they seem as though they're getting prepped a little bit. But you can see this lioness that's grooming herself. Look at the amount of mud on her paws. They obviously were having a full go at these buffalo at some point, and they're covered in dirt and sand. And see, she's calling now as well. I think they want the whole pride to come together. There's a situation where both lionesses are calling, and it's interesting to me because normally the sub-adults come when they call like this. The sub-adults normally are the ones that will come trotting up just to see what's going on, but nobody is moving. I don't know if maybe there's something that they're scared of. Maybe these sub-adults got chased by buffalo and they're still a bit nervous. I'm not quite sure. Shame, she's still calling. I was just hoping that we would get to see the rest of them coming out all together and then moving as a pride, but it just doesn't seem like that any of the others are responding to these two's calls at this stage. Now, looking at them this morning, they're not, they're skinny, but they're not desperate. I've seen lions in far worse state than this. They definitely could do with a meal, but they're not in dire straits just yet. And so, as much as I think they want to hunt, very noisy this morning. Shame, my girl. Are you hungry? Right, now, while we kind of be patient with our pride and listen to their pleaful calls that send you back across to Steph, who I think has sorted himself out and is ready to talk to you again.
I was ready to talk to you just now as well, but we had no voice where I was previously. So I was actually just remarking on how peaceful the trip out here today has been. It's the clouds have come over now. We've had some. I have got audio, but I need to send you over to Brent.
Well, it seems like the morning can't get much better for us. So Hukumuri disappears, we travel a little bit down the road, and my favourite kitty, Hosana, appears. And he's just crossed into Djuma. I heard the monkey's alarm calling. I stopped and I said, there must be a leopard around here. And Craig says, yes, he's right in front of us in the road. I was like, oh, that's nice. So there we go, Hosana coming into Djuma. He might go visit the elephant carcass for fun. We're not too far away from there. Well, good morning to be out and about in the African bushveld. Spotty cats abound. Oh, I'm not sure whether Craig has redeemed himself from his card losses last night. We're actually making it sound like Craig's lost lots of money. But no, he just lost at a game of something head. There we go, Hosana's just around this corner, and then I'm going to stop. He is such a funny cat. He's been running. When we first spotted him, he was running around playing with sticks. Now, we're probably about 3 k's from where we had Hukumuri, and Hukumuri is moving in the opposite direction, Cobalt, so Hosana is safe. The squirrels, however, are not. They are chirping away now. Okay, he's going down here. I'm just going to shoot around to Twin Dams and just update the guys on the game drive radio. Station Hosana is moving deeper into Djuma. He's going to pop out to Twin Dams shortly. Okay. Where did he go? He was heading down this elephant path that comes right this way. There he is. Oh, hello, boy. Now, the squirrels are alarming. Monkeys are still alarming. I'm sure he is causing all the pandemonium. The impala, I haven't seen him, however, yet, but I think they're about to. Hello, big boy. And the impala directly behind him now. I think it's only a matter of seconds before the snorting starts. One is staring intently. Are you going to chase vultures? I think you are. Now let's turn around. So I think the curiosity of Hosana has got the better of him, and he wants to go see what's happening at the elephant carcass. He's taking a bit of a roundabout way to get there. Okay, let's have a look what he's looking at. He's just scoping out the area around Twin Dams. Now, hopefully, we can send you back to Steph without having to rush back to either Tristan or myself.
its burrow just here. But I don't want to face it because it's going to get a fright. See its face? So that's a young warthog that's just popping its head out of its burrow. They sleep in their burrows at night, they reverse in, so that their tusks face outwards and any threat that would come down the tunnel. It's a youngster, and that's why it hasn't run away. And because my back is towards it, it doesn't want to draw attention to itself by making a mad dash. So right now he's comfortable in his burrow, and he's happy in them. Happy in the thought that we can't see him. The wind is also blowing from him to us, so he's not getting a big nose full of human smell. The pressure will build though, and eventually this warthog will rush out of this hole. And they can pick up some speed. They almost come flying out of the hole, all 4 feet off the air, or in the air. We actually found this warthog just by chance. We're running away from some elephants. The path that we chose, unfortunately, was with the breeze at our backs. And we wafted our scent onto what looked like one elephant, which is now following us through the bush. There we go. Slowly, this warthog's going to come out now. Pressure's building. The chance of this warthog walking away is quite small. It's most likely going to rush away when it finally figures out what we are. And keep your fingers on those capture buttons. It's about the longest sighting of a warthog we've had at Djuma in years. Usually they just run away as soon as they see you. So. He ran away. He just missed it, but he's run away now. So, warthog sighting over. Right, now we've got to figure out a safe way to get around these elephant. Now, the reason why I came to this termite mound is when you're moving away from elephant, you move upslope and you move to termite mounds. That's the number one thing that you should try and do if you can. Now, we've got some distance on this ellie, probably about 50 meters or so. And so I think what we can start doing is moving around it and seeing if we can get into a downwind position of the elephant. So, in other words, where its breeze is coming to us, not our breeze is going to it. And then we'll see if we can show him to you. Lots of elephant activity around here. And so we're just trying to be careful, but while we're having a look for a safe place for this elephant, why don't you go off to Tristan? A pride is coming together.
Well, the pride is already together. They've all out and arrived and all settled down already. They've groomed, they've greeted, they've had a little kind of altercation between some of the sub-adults and the youngest lioness. I think they were a bit boisterous when they first arrived, but everybody's kind of sitting, and we've got every single one of the lionesses and all of the sub-adults, but no sign of that little cub. So I don't think the little cub is here anymore, I'm afraid. It would have come with the sub-adults if it was here. Interestingly enough, though, it seems like the adult females are moving. They're not lying down, and so we're going to try and see what happens. The problem is I'm kind of surrounded at the moment by sub-adults. It seems as though they've all decided that Jigger is an interesting vehicle. I don't know what it is with Jigger at the moment, but they all sit and they stare at it as though there's something odd with it. I don't know what the situation is. Maybe it's just sort of coincidence, but It's interesting, this lioness right here, this one that's lying in front of the bonnet, she came and she was staring at us for a long time, and she stopped right there, was looking at the front of the car and just kind of having a little look around. So it was very cool to be in the company of all of them, and to watch them all come together has been amazing. What I can tell you is that these lions made a kill last night. Somewhere along the line, something very small is what they got, because there is the sub-adult male, and 2 or 3 of the sub-adults have got massive bellies on them, and Amber Eyes looks like she's got quite a full belly too. So they seem as though they got something small. Even if you look at them now, there's a slight roundness in their tummies. There's not like they are empty. So I think they might have got maybe a baby buffalo. Given that they've been hunting buffalo the most, that's what I think. But we'll try and keep up with them, because they are moving now. They've decided that's enough sitting for the morning, which is great news for us, because hopefully that's going to mean we're going to have a situation where they're going to maybe just maybe follow these buffalo, which will be very cool. So let's see how this goes. Still no sign of any of the males coming this way, and still no sort of evidence that they're here other than that one track. Good. Now I believe Brent has followed our curious Hosana all the way back to the elephant, and hopefully he's going to have a little feed.
Well, he's just stopped on the other side of the carcass. There are still a lot of hyenas around. There he is. There's a hyena walking towards him. That's what he's watching now. The hyenas haven't spotted him yet. But I think there might be too many hyenas for Mr. Hosana to get too close to this carcass. There's at least 6 around. Now that, so they haven't spotted Hosana yet. I was hoping there weren't going to be any hyenas, just vultures, because he does like to chase a vulture or two. And he's very curious. He approached quite cautiously. Oh, more hyenas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 that I can see around us. You can see every time he thinks he might be spotted by a hyena, he drops his head down a bit. And I said he hasn't been spotted yet. But there are huge amounts of hyenas here. A lot more hyenas than we were here earlier. Now, the hyenas would definitely chase little Hosana hunter if they've, not even if they felt threatened, if they felt he came a little bit too close to the carcass. But there is sort of, on a carcass like this, the hyenas are definitely the boss, especially with this many hyenas around. Hyenas watching more hyenas arrive. Flap, flap, climb, climb. Come on, little Hosana. Come chase a hyena. Now, he could, if he charged in and made a noise, the hyenas might get a fright and scatter for a few seconds. At the moment, how many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on the carcass. And at least another 3 or 4 in the surrounds. So the hyenas almost seem to know something's up. There's one heading towards him now. Watch him flatten in the grass. Look how his ears just disappear, and you can see how well that leopard camouflage works then. You can see they are jumpy. It's almost like they're worried that the lions are around, but I heard the Styx Pride, well, actually not too far from here, but still a couple of kilometers. I'm actually surprised at spending as much time as we do watching vultures that not more vultures don't lose their eyes when they are being pecky, or when they're pecking at each other. Okay, well, we're going to sit right here, see what plays out between Hosana, the vultures, and the hyenas. It sounds like the Nkuhumas are up and on the move.
Well, Brenty, I'm also surprised. I always think about that with vultures, is why they don't hit each other's eyes. You would think that they would. There's not really much protection there for the eye itself, but it seems as though they work it out and they get it right. But you can see Nkuhuma Pride is up and moving. The entire pride is kind of walking up into these long grass thickets, and I'm not sure why they've moved up here. It's a situation where we've got, not really, the buffalo didn't go this way, so it's not like they're trailing the buffalo at the moment. They just got up and decided this is where they wanted to lie down, and it seems as though most of the adults are now lying down, and hopefully we're going to see a situation where, they'll get up again and carry on. But you can see with this young male, now that he's actually out, sorry Dave, I've just seen him come past now, but this guy, you can see, look at his belly, he's got a big round tummy. So our young boy managed to get most of whatever they killed, and then one of the other sub-adult females is also as round as they come. She's got a nice big belly too. So they must have killed something small last night, maybe a young impala or something like that, or a young buffalo. Between all of them wouldn't really make too much of a dent, but there's definitely some that are fuller than others, and so it's good that they at least got some semblance of a meal. They still look like they could do with more, but at least they've got something in their tummies, and that's going to help them as they go. I'm just trying to see kind of what's going on. It looks like all the adult girls are lying down behind me, besides, well, not all of them, but 3 of them are lying behind me, and so they look as though they've decided that's it for the day. They don't want to do anything more. They're kind of busy grooming themselves. You can see one is already on its side, sleeping, although, there we go, the buffalo just bellowed, and we've got a situation where they're kind of putting up their heads a little bit just to listen. So we've got the eldest lioness here, we've got the youngest lioness, and we've got the one that's got the little eye injury at the moment, and it seems as though Amber Eyes is up in front, as is typical with this pride. She generally is the one that moves and everybody else follows. So it was interesting to watch, because the other two were calling. All the sub-adults came out, and then we had the lioness, the eldest lioness came with the sub-adults, and then we had the lioness with the injured eye, and Amber Eyes bringing up the rear. And as soon as she walked through the middle of the pride, everybody else stood up and started to walk. So it's almost like they follow her more than anything else. It's an interesting kind of thing. I always just thought it was coincidence, but it's definitely they respond to her. As soon as she comes through the pride, everybody is up and moving. You can see as she's in the front, then everyone kind of gets up to follow what's going on. Interesting. Very, very interesting. But it looks like they're going to settle for a little bit. Maybe they've decided the long grass is a better place for them than being out in the open like they were and very close to those buffalo. And they've decided that this is where they would rather be for now. It's not very good for us, though, because the grass is very, 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 very long in this area. I'm just trying to think. I would like to get to where they are at the moment, but I think I'm going to have to go quite a long way around to get to that area, unless, of course, this sub-adult here gets up, what she is going to do. So hopefully we can get around and have a situation where they all kind of move, because this is the best path to go through where that lioness is standing. Good. Now we have lions walking through a long grass, and we also have another incredible specimen of a animal, Stefan Winterberg, who's walking through the long grass as well.
We're actually standing on top of a termite mound. You can see your vantage point with VM at the moment is at least a yard or two higher than what I am. We've walked around that elephant, and we are now in a much better position from a wind direction point of view. We needed to skedaddle from where we were to this place. Now, we're not standing on this termite mound because we're in any danger. This specific termite mound was just the tallest structure in our local vicinity, and so we used it for a little bit of elevation so that we can see where this elephant's going. As far as I know, VM says he can see that elephant. Alright, so he's in the same place as he was. And I don't have visual of it at the moment. Only you can see him from your vantage point. The termite mound that you're standing on has a point. It literally can only fit you on at the moment, and not me as well. So enjoy that sighting. Now the wind has come up pretty strong over the last couple of minutes, probably the last 30 minutes or so, which is going to aid us to get a bit closer to this elephant. Wind masks not only scent but also the little noises that we make as we move through the bush, the branches breaking and grass swishing against our legs and things like that. So we're going to try and get you a little bit closer than we are at the moment. We're going to try and do it safely, of course. That elephant is completely unaware of us, and for those of you who are just joining us, we bumped into this particular elephant about an hour or two ago while we were tracking the lions that Tristan is standing with, or with at the moment. And he moved away from us into this area. He was unaware of us at the time. He just knew that something was up. He walked away from the disturbance, and he's now just feeding. He's having himself a tree for breakfast, and hopefully we can get him to